how do we compare how happy we were living in the tiny house with living in a bigger place now?
Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth. Live simple,
live free. So the question was actually asked to us comparing our tiny house with our big house. But first let me give a little bit of background. We have a Facebook group that goes along with this, a companion Facebook group called Live Simple, Live Free. Of course, imagine that. And I recently posted a video there. It was an old video from our channel called How We Ended Up Living in a Tiny House. And it tells our whole story. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the description below so you can see that. And it's probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old anyway, at least. And so we got a comment on that video that posted on Facebook that I thought was really appropriate. And this is from Matt Todd. And so I thought I'd read the comment and we could expound on it. He says, these earlier episodes. Sometimes they were. These earlier episodes were real fun because you showed us one could minimize one's lifestyle and still being as happy as anyone else, and one could live frugally and not compromise the enjoyment of life. You both look as happy, or if not more, than a couple living on Fifth Avenue. Can I ask then, are you two as happy now as you were then? And what do you miss about living in that tiny home? Thanks very much, you two. Well, thank you, Todd, for your question. I was going to start to answer that on, in a comment on Facebook, and then I thought, no, this is a really good question that we can talk about here on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, who haven't been around as long, the first 5 years of our channel, we actually lived in a tiny house. It was a 250 square foot, 32 foot RV that was an old dilapidated trailer that I renovated, and we lived in it for 5 years. We first started it right basically at the beginning of the tiny house movement, and we didn't know there was such thing as a tiny house movement. No. We moved in there out of desperation because in the crash of '08, I lost my construction business overnight, 30-year established construction business. We lost our home and we lost 3 rental properties, and we were about this far away from actually living in our car. So we scraped together just enough money to buy this tiny little piece of property with a trailer on it, and I renovated it. And that saved us from living in the car. Now, living in the car is not the same thing as full-time adventure van living or RV living. That's by choice. Living in a car is not by choice, and that's where we were at. So we lived there for about 5 years full-time. Mm-hmm. So
we went from a 2,500 square foot house to 250 square feet.
Right. And it was obviously a very traumatic time in our lives. We lost everything. That was our whole retirement and everything.
Yeah.
So were we happy there?
I ended up just loving it.
Yeah, me too.
We did.
I think first of all, we were happy because we were extremely grateful to God for providing it for us.
Oh, just having a roof over our head, we never took it for granted.
And I don't want to get into that story here, but that video that I just talked about, how we ended up living in a tiny house, tells that whole story. So if you want to hear that, check the description below. But we were just extremely grateful to even have a place to live.
Yeah.
Instead of living in our car.
Yep.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was an adventure.
It was an adventure. And I like this, the best way I can describe it, I really like puzzles. And figuring out how to put what we needed to into that very small little place and make it workable on a day-to-day basis was kind of like figuring out this intricate puzzle. And I kind of enjoyed that, actually. It was kind of fun, once I got used to the big change. Just as an example, in our living room, we had a couple of recliners, which we needed, and especially since I had the stroke, I kind of need a recliner. And we had a work desk there that we shared. Bill was the main one working on it, but we had a work desk in there. We had some shelves for food, and then above the desk, Bill put a shelf in for my piano. my keyboard, so I could lower that down and play on it or teach on it. I could put it back up again. We could work at the desk. We incorporated so much into that tiny little room, but it was fun. You know, it's kind of an adventure.
It was really cozy living there.
Yeah, especially because we had that little teeny tiny wood stove that I could handle and take care of it, and yeah, it was actually, yeah, it's just a very nestled nest-like feeling, very cozy. I often tease that our bedroom was a bed room. It was a full-size bed for both of us, and
We had about a foot around two sides of it, and that was it.
yeah, that's exactly, you know, and I did have a real small little shower, but it was a real shower, and managed to get a washer and dryer in there, and even a dishwasher. It was set up so that it worked, and it was cozy, you know.
And, you know, we lived there, like I said, for 5 years. We were very happy there. At one time, we thought that that would be our forever home because, you know, I had lost my income, my business, my retirement. We didn't have much money, and we just figured we would retire there, and we were happy with that.
Right. I mean, this was a paid-for place, so we did have a little home there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, when we lost all of our homes and all that kind of stuff, we also, of course, lost all of those mortgages and all those payments we were required to do. And we were, for the first time, just completely debt-free and didn't owe anybody anything. And so we were happy with that.
It was a big adjustment, a big thing to go through. But once dug out of the hole...
Once we dug out of the hole and got through the mess, we were happy with the end result. And we lived there for 5 years, and we were happy there.
Yeah. Yep.
But, go ahead.
Even having like grandkids over and stuff, they'd be piled all over the place on chairs and just here and there, but we managed, you know.
But there were definitely some challenges there as well.
Oh yeah.
One of the biggest one was we were in northern Pennsylvania, and we
end up on a plateau.
Yeah, and we regularly had winters of 10 below. And, you know, a travel trailer, it was a 1977 model, and the walls were about this thick. Now, I did double the width, the thickness of the walls when I was doing the renovation to get more insulation in there. But still, when it's 10 below outside and you have a wall about that thick, even though we had a fireplace in there that kept us nice and cozy, if you got anywhere near the walls, you could just feel the cold radiating through off of the walls. All of the windows would get frosted over, and it was set on cinder blocks, and they would heave in the winter, and the trailer would twist a little bit, and then the outside doors wouldn't close. They wouldn't latch. So here it is 10 below outside, and the door will close, but it won't latch, and we ended up having to hold it shut with a bungee.
Oh yeah, we held
for like 6 weeks until it thawed out again.
Well, the little front door we held closed with a bungee, and honestly, the back door you just about couldn't budge it.
It wouldn't open. It wouldn't open, and if it did, we would never get it closed again.
Right. Now I understand how important it is to have a safe place to get out in case of an emergency. We could make it open, but then it would never close again.
Well, we'd have to kick it open.
Yeah, but it was at least possible. But no.
So there was some real challenges in the winter. And 9 months out of the year, I really enjoyed living there. 3 months out of the year in the dead of winter, it was a challenge.
Now, like I said, it was very cozy with the little fire. You know, I put a teeny little Christmas tree up. You know, I loved it, but it was a lot of rough stuff for Bill to have to be taken care of all the time.
Yeah, it was constant work on my part just to keep it livable.
Yeah,
you know.
And you know, things got very icy and slippery, and we just had to be super careful. Yeah.
And then there was the issue of not having room for guests and things.
Yeah, I mean, I love having company over. I love having dinners for people, and so that was kind of hard. I mean, like I said, you know, I'd have grandkids around. We just make do, you know. But we had one get together at our house, and it was in the summer, and everybody was outside. But overall, it was just hard to have company because I really couldn't have any place for any kind of a real table, and I had very limited space to put anything up on the walls. But I think out of everything, the part that I struggled with the most was feeling like I really couldn't have a place for people. If they would come visit, goodness, I mean, you know, we just didn't have anywhere to put anybody that was bigger than a grandbaby.
Yeah. So, like I said, that was in northern Pennsylvania. Now, our son Barry lived here in Southwest Virginia, and we came down here to visit him one time, and we were sitting up on his porch. And the house that we're living in right now, you can see from his porch.
Yeah.
And he pointed to that. He didn't tell us anything about this until we got here. He pointed to that house. He said, "See that house down there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I just bought that." You what? You didn't even tell me you were thinking about it? Yeah, he just bought it. I said, "So you got renters in there?" He said, "Yeah, I got renters in there, but you know, Dad, I bought that house for you guys." And I was floored.
Yeah, he said, "Someday you're going to need it."
Someday you're going to need it. I mean, here he is, we were, what, mid-50s, late 50s at the time?
Yeah,
I guess.
probably late 50s.
And here
yeah.
he was looking out for us when we're, in our 80s or whatever. Someday you're going to need it. So we just kind of put that in the back of our minds. Okay, that's kind of good to know. But we were very happy where we were at, so
Right,
we figured sometime in the future.
And he had nice people renting here.
Yeah, people from our church were renting here, so
Yeah.
he was set up fine with that. And so we figured, okay, let's do that. But we're going to wait a couple of years.
Yeah, well, we didn't know how long. I
Yeah.
mean, we were situated where we were.
And then my father, who was in his mid-80s, and he was living alone in an apartment.
It's like a senior building.
It was about a half hour from us. We didn't see him during the week. We saw him every week after church, spent Sunday afternoons with him. But it started to become evident that he just simply was not really capable of living alone anymore.
Yeah, he started scaring me because he was getting his meds all mixed up, and I don't know, he loved the little apartment. It was a very safe place. And he still got around just fine, but it was the fact that he was, forgetting he took his medicine and then taking it again. There's just all sorts of stuff like that made me very concerned.
So we just simply had no room in our little tiny house, RV tiny house, for him.
We had no place to string a hammock. I mean,
No,
it was just...
there was no way. So it's like,
hilariously small.
So what are we going to do? In fact, we started thinking about this even before we knew about the house that Barry bought us.
And we weren't sure what to do.
Because I remember thinking, so what are we going to do now? We can't afford to buy a house. Are we going to rent? We can't really afford to rent because at that time our income hadn't really recovered yet.
No, we still were pretty doggone broke and honestly didn't have the greatest credit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that time.
So because of losing several houses, it kind of destroyed our
the
credit.
whole crash, it just, yeah.
So all of a sudden we realized it was time for us to move to Virginia.
Yeah.
So now Barry said that he bought that house for us, but he didn't give it to us. Don't misunderstand. A lot of people misunderstood that.
No,
He didn't give it to us. We bought it from him for what he paid for it.
Yeah, in fact, we paid for the roof work he'd done. We tried to make sure and cover all of his expenses.
Yeah, when he bought it, it needed some roof work, it needed some appliances and some other things, so we paid him for everything that he put into it. And he did get a great deal on it because he got it at a foreclosure auction, but he bought it and we bought it from him.
Right.
So we were able to move down here much earlier than we expected,
Right.
so we would have room for my father to move in with us.
Yes. And one of the things I was so grateful for is I didn't want him to boot the family out because we needed the house. I felt really bad about that. And they actually found a place that was going to be better for their needs. The size of it was more what they really needed. So they were cheerfully already moving out.
In fact, we moved in faster than we thought because we were thinking this was like September or October, and we were just telling Barry, I think we'll move into the house maybe next spring. I don't know why the timing, I don't remember.
Yeah, there was a reason for that timing. I'm trying to remember.
He called me on November 1st and he said, they're moving out. They just found a place. The house will be available for you on November 15th. Well, dear, I guess we're moving to Virginia.
We're moving to Virginia.
So we did that. We moved down here. We ended up selling the little travel trailer, a tiny house.
It was on actually a land you owned.
Yeah, it was on a piece of land. So we sold the land with the trailer on it. Helped us pay for the house that we're in here, and some other things. I won't get into all that now. But so we moved down here with my father.
Yeah,
we had
gave him a room. Yeah,
gave him a room, and then of course it's because it's a 3-bedroom ranch, just under 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So the question then, are we happier here or were we happier there?
It's such a apples and oranges situation. Mm-hmm. It really is. I love the sense of adventure of living in a space that small.
Now remember that we didn't go tiny by choice.
Yeah, it wasn't like we decided to join the tiny house movement. We just ended up living in 250 square feet. You got to stop and think how small that is.
Yeah.
Think of your entire house being 12 feet by, what is 250?
Well, no, our trailer, it was 8 feet by 32 feet.
Right. So make that 16 feet by What's half of 32? Anyway.
16 by 16.
Thank you. I'm really smarter than this, guys. Yeah, think of a 16 by 16 room and have that be your entire house.
Yeah. So I think that for me personally, I was very happy there. I really was. I was surprised how happy I was there. I felt cozy, except when it was 10 below. I loved the sound of the rain on the roof, you know, and I was very happy there. But that was a season of our life that we have moved on from.
Right, for a really good reason, you know.
And now that we've moved into a different season of our life, I can honestly say I don't think I would ever want to go back.
Yeah, I think at this point, not being able to have company come over as much, there's just a lot of things that I would feel sad losing. I've got a table now where I can have people over for a meal. I've got room for people. I can have get-togethers, and I really enjoy that. So it's still not a really big house, but it's very adequate, and I'm very happy with it.
And of course, here we are, like we've mentioned before, we live right next to Barry. We share a driveway with him, so you know the grandkids come down all the time.
Yeah.
We're very involved in the church here. The two of us and Barry, all three of us, play in the worship band every week. We're just very happy here. It's a good time in our life.
And it's a beautiful property. You know, the spring, the summer, the fall here they're beautiful. You know, and well, even the winter's not that bad, but it's
not like it was in Pennsylvania.
No, but it's a really, really lovely place, and so I could adapt again, I suppose, to living that small. But right now, there's a few things that would be hard for me to give up again. And I don't mean stuff. I mean just room for people.
Room for people.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
room to hang pictures of people on the walls.
Exactly. That's right. I mean, that wonderful picture that the kids made for us for Christmas this last year. They did the best drawing for us. And if I was still in the tiny house, I don't know where I would have put it.
We wouldn't have had any room for it.
I wouldn't have known where in the world to put it. So I've got a place of honor on the wall for that one, you know. So I don't know. I don't need to live in a really big house. I don't want to. But I'm grateful to have just a little bit more of a situation that you can do some of the normal hostessing things and stuff like that. I guess that's my main thing.
Now, some other things have changed as well since then, because when we lived in that house, we were extremely broke.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, good grief. When I lost my business and I was unemployed for 2 years, and when I first started driving a truck for Swift Transportation, I think when I first started, I was only making like $35,000 a year or something like that, when the average income was $55,000 for a household.
Well, and I had been teaching forever, and right after he started driving truck is when I had the stroke.
Yeah.
Now, God made sure we didn't have both of us out of work at the same time, you know.
But it was extremely tight.
Very, very tight.
And praise God, now our income has basically recovered, basically because of you guys, and we appreciate every one of you.
Can I tell you how much?
Every video that you watch, every can of Thrive Life that you buy, all of that contributes to our income. Now, you know, we are by no means rich.
No.
We've just kind of recovered to an average income, and maybe slightly above the national average, but not much. And so with that, then, you know that we are now debt-free, and that's because we've taken our recovered income and through very frugal management and never ever using debt again, and concentrating like a laser to pay off our house. We paid off this house where we live here in Virginia very quickly.
Yeah, in about 16 months, everything was completely paid for.
And now, because we continue to stay debt-free,
and have old cars and nothing fancy.
We drive 20-year-old cars and that sort of thing.
Yep.
We were just able to buy that second home, snowbird home in Florida. And should we tell them?
Well, okay.
We just did our tax return, and we just found out that the money that we're going to get in from the return is going to come within just a couple $1,000s of paying off that house in Florida.
Yeah.
So it's not paid off yet, but as soon as we get our tax return, it will be.
Yeah, we'll manage to get it completely paid for.
Of course, we're very excited about that.
Yes.
Now,
we want to stay debt-free.
Yeah, so we are debt-free, we remain debt-free, and some people say, well, but you just put a mortgage on that second house when you bought it. Yes, we did, but here's the thing. We do not believe in promising away future income.
Yeah, promising future earnings, right?
That's where the problem comes, because you never know when that future earnings is going to die, as we
Or something. Yes.
found out the hard way when our business, because of the economy, our business died. But when we bought that and we put that small mortgage on it, we were planning on using the tax return that we knew was coming to pay for it. So we weren't trying to promise away future earnings. We were promising away the tax return, which was money that was already owed to us.
Right, that we already knew was going to be coming. Yes, absolutely.
So,
it was a very small mortgage. It was the grace of God we found a bank that would give us that small of a
So
mortgage.
at this point, as soon as we get our tax return within another month or so, we'll be debt free again. So are we happier now than we were then? In some ways, no, but on many levels,
yes,
much more so.
I know a lot of times people feel like, well, you're not living simple. My goodness, you're doing all this stuff. You're building. You've got 2 houses, blah, blah, blah. But the thing of it is that I've tried to really think about this before we started this video. If we had gotten ourselves into tight financial straits by getting that other house, in other words, if we had gotten ourselves where it's like all of a sudden money was getting like a little iffy and I had stuff that I had to pay all the time that I didn't really know for sure if I was going to have the money, that would reduce my joy level, my freedom level tremendously. And so the only way that we considered this house was because we had become in a position where, because our regular everyday expenses are actually pretty low. We don't have a mortgage on anything. We don't have debts. We don't tend to live extravagantly. We're happy. We're fine. But we were able to start saving money. And then we did that, Bill and Barry did that extra really hard job over
The flip house that we did last summer that we bought and renovated and sold. We made a fair amount of money from that. We sold our travel trailer.
Because we didn't need it anymore.
We've been saving, and then our tax return. So that's how we were able to buy this house in Florida. By the way, I want to make a disclaimer right here and now, okay? Every single time we ever start talking about our finances on any video, I get hundreds of comments saying, well, you don't have to tell us all that. That's nobody's business. Or how rude of people to ask questions like that.
You're just being sweet and protective.
Yeah,
yes.
Well, here's the thing. We espouse, is that the right word? Espouse a debt-free lifestyle. I teach a debt-free class, how to get out of debt. And the best way I know to teach that is to teach by example. So we are telling our finances here as an example of what can be done when you have the debt-free lifestyle and maintain that.
Right.
So if you are interested in how to get out of debt, we also I have a seminar, four video seminar that I've done about getting out of debt. I'll put a link for that down below as well. So,
and see, the thing of it is, we've talked about this before, but I think this is really appropriate to, are we still happy? Are we still keeping our life simple and free? That we ended up with some money that, the goal was to get to the point where our debt's all gone, and now we can start saving and have some investing money. Well, we finally have had some investing money. So we have kind of a chunk of money, and then I'm going to be getting into more of it. I have a really important doctor's appointment coming up in about 10 days now, but I have developed an autoimmune disorder, apparently called interstitial lung disease. And you'll notice sometimes I kind of drop out for just a little while. I don't mean to. I just don't. I'm not breathing real great. And I discovered that in the cold weather, I really struggle. It's really hard. It's not even just asthma. It's like my lungs are just really unhappy with cold air. And so I discovered that when I'm down in Florida, when it's cold here, when I'm down in Florida, oh my goodness, do I breathe better. And Barry pointed out that the elevation's also a lot lower, so you have more oxygen.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were as high here in Virginia as we are, but I think we're somewhere just over 2,000 feet. I didn't realize we were that high.
And of course, down there, I'm practically right at sea level.
We're like 20 feet?
Yeah, it's like 20 feet. And so we've said this before, but we tried for years just to get down to Florida, just enjoy it. And now I'm getting to where... this has been building up for a while. I didn't know what was wrong, but I've gotten to where I kind of need to get out of the cold. And so if you want to talk about things being simple, once we have been able to make the investment of buying the house, which, praise the Lord, is going to be completely paid off very momentarily here. Once that investment is made, looking at every possible way to get down to Florida during the cold, and I don't mean for a 2-week vacation, I'm talking 4 or 5 months, whatever time that we would end up down there, to get out of the cold. I don't know of any less expensive way to do it. Because once the house is paid for, then it sounds like, oh goodness, you guys are keeping up with 2 houses, you're keeping up with all this various stuff. But the thing of it is that the system I have in place to take care of all my expenses, your taxes and insurance and utilities and all that, I have a system. Bill has an accounting degree, and he set me up really well, so I take care of our household expenses, and he does business.
Set her up with spreadsheets and stuff
Right.
to manage all the money.
Yes. And so he takes care of all the business parts, and I take care of all of our home parts, which can be kind of complicated sometimes. But anyway, I just put everything into that same system. And so I don't find it that complicated to take care of whatever everyday expenses or monthly expenses you have with another house. When it comes right down to it, we enjoy the spring, summer, and some fall here. And when it gets cold, we're just going to pack up the car and go down to Florida, and everything's ready. Well, it's not ready yet, but I mean,
we
everything's...
get to the house, we turn the key, and we go into our house. And it's nothing in the world can be more simple once we get it situated, which it isn't yet.
Yeah, we're working on getting it situated. We still got, I've had the fun job of getting stuff put in there and all that kind of stuff, which I'm doing by cash a little bit at a time, and we didn't get a fancy house. It just isn't, it just isn't a fancy house. It wasn't an incredible, foreclosure auction like when Barry bought this place. But still, it's believe me, we in fact we picked that part of Florida, which we really like it there a lot, because it's not so outrageously expensive. You get
if we had gone further south,
the
price of a similar house would have gone up at least $100,000, if not more.
If not more, or getting close to the coast, then it starts to get much more expensive.
So that's why it's one of the main reasons we're so far north, but also it's an easy one-day drive. If we were down near Miami, it would be a 2-day drive to get there.
And the drive is always hard on me.
Yeah.
So the one-day drive is wonderful. And we'll often break it up and just stay at a little inexpensive hotel halfway down, just to, kind of break it up a little bit. It's doable.
Yeah. Now, when she gets into the cold, she starts wheezing, and it's kind of asthma-like symptoms, but it's not really asthma. It's this, what she said, interstitial lung disease, where she can't breathe in the cold. And so I've mentioned asthma a couple of times just because it's hard to explain all of that.
Well, and I do have inhalers for asthma. I can get asthma attacks.
But the reason I bring that up is just today there was a whole string of comments on one of the Facebook group comments about if she's got asthma, she shouldn't be going to Florida. The humidity down there and the heat and the humidity and everything is really hard on asthma. Well, she actually does considerably better down there. Now, I don't know about summer because we're not planning on being there in the summer.
The winter is not as humid.
But in the winter, she does considerably better down there, and she doesn't have any asthma issues while she's down there. So that's the main reason that we decided to invest in we were going to invest in real estate anyway. It's one of the main reasons we decided to invest in a house down in Florida instead of up here in Virginia. The winters down there, one thing that's nice about it is you don't have like the mosquitoes, you don't have the intense humidity during the what I would consider the cold part of the winter. It's like a fresh spring kind of thing to me. So I'm just very, very, very grateful, and we just have to stay diligent to not get into debt. Like I said, we planned that with the house very, very carefully, and it's working just like it was supposed to, and I'm so grateful. But our car's looking pitiful, but it still runs. And if there's something that we don't need anymore, we don't keep it. Okay.
And just to try to keep things at a level of only having what we really know we need, or just, once again, brings us great joy. That's what I had to learn in the tiny house. Only the things I really need or that just bring me the greatest real joy can stay in the house. And So, and I'm trying to keep even weeding that out in the bigger house here, you know, and really trying to keep it basic and simple down in Florida. So anyway, life just goes through seasons.
Yeah.
You know, you do. That whole stream of conversation about asthma and everything started because somebody was wondering about why I wasn't there for Tea with Jesus on Sunday, and anyway, I just have days sometimes where I just don't feel good at all.
She just doesn't physically have the energy, and I don't know if you realize how much energy it takes to put in all the Bible study and all that, and then to film it. Yeah, it takes a lot.
And edit. I'm not complaining. I love doing it, but it's about 9 hours for every half hour that I put out of that. And I just was having a rough time at the end of the week. And what I apologized for is that I kept thinking, I'm going to do this. And then I didn't. And then I was embarrassed. And then I was like, I got to get it right out there. And I should have just put up a little thing that said, I'm sorry, I won't be doing it this week. I kept thinking I was. And that was just me chickening out. I just didn't want to have to admit that I wasn't going to be able to do it. But I do have a bunch of recording that I had done ahead that was supposed to be for last week. And so I'm going to try to share that. And I'm still gung-ho going to go for Easter morning, you know. And I was able to just play for the service last Sunday. I loved that. For the worship. For the worship service. But that still does, you know, I still got home and really rested a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. But thanks, you guys. You're always kind of concerned, and I don't mean to leave anybody hanging. And it's hard to admit sometimes that I don't do things as easily as I used to. I had just done that video about life sometimes has some challenging things in it. And right after that, I got pretty sick. But no, life is still good.
Well, so we started out talking about comparing whether we were happy in that house or this house. And then we talked about how we bought the house in Florida. And now we're talking about your health, and just sort of rambled a little bit, but
just being us.
Yeah, just being us.
Well, I wanted to at least address how come that whole conversation came up about things.
Oh, there's a neighbor right there. Target practice. You can see we don't live in a city.
No. It's a farm. It's a farm next door. So I think it's target practice. Oh, goodness. So
the question, are we happier then or happier now? I can say for myself, I was very, very happy in the tiny house, but at this point I wouldn't want to go back.
Well, you know, if we go somewhere and it's an adventure, even staying in a tent, as long as I got someplace I can sleep that's comfortable, it's an adventure. But for everyday life, I'm grateful to not have to live quite so adventurous.
And it's funny, even as I say I wouldn't want to go back, I'm very much looking forward to starting to be able to travel in our camper van.
When we ever get one.
For months. Well, yeah, we got one, but whatever we're going to do with it. But for travel for months on end. But that's an adventure. That's not where you live. You do that for a couple months and then you're home again.
Yeah. So, yep. When I'm in Florida, I miss the kids. Yeah. You know, I miss them a lot. Yeah. But we genuinely love it down there. And so it's going to be, if it's cold up here, we'll be in Florida, and if it's hot down there, we'll be up here. Yep. I guess that's called snowbirding.
So anyway, what was his name? Matt?
Yeah. Thanks for the question,
Matt. Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Yes. I hope we've sufficiently answered it.
Yeah. It's just different.
Yeah.
But we were fine. And we weren't just pretending. We were really fine.
Yeah.
You know,
So, thanks for watching.
Yeah. Live simple.
Live free.
Yeah.
You be blessed.
All right. We do love you guys, and we'll be around soon here.
Right.
Isn't it a beautiful day?
It is. It's 81 right now. It's the first hot day we've had up here in Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth with Tiny House Prepper.
Now, what we want to talk to you today is why we live in our tiny house.
And how we got here, and where we think we're going to go from here.
Now, it's a 32-foot RV trailer, as you can see. It's 250 square feet. It's also got this attached